Okay. Chapter 5, the constitutional principles. So some of the learning objectives were Constitution, separation of powers, and the impact of the amendments on businesses. So the Constitution provides legal framework for the nation, and then articles set the basic structure of government, and the amendments establish and protect individuals' rights. So the separation of powers, constitutional doctrine whereby the legislative branch enacts laws and appropriate funds, and then executive branch sees that the laws are faithfully executed, and then judicial branch interprets the laws. President is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, charged with ensuring that the laws are faithfully executed. And then Commerce Clause grants authority to regulate commerce to the federal government. Causes of the conflict, extent to which granting such authority to federal government restricts the state's authority to regulate commerce. And then resolutions for conflict. The court distinguishes between regulations and commerce and regulations under the state police power. And then police power is states retained authority to pass laws to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the community. And then what impacts the amendments on business would be bills of right, which is they are granted the first 10 amendments. Prohibited federal government from infringing on certain freedoms guaranteed to individuals, and then corporates treated as official persons. So the 14th Amendment applies to the entire Bill of Rights, accepting the parts of the 5th Amendment to all the states. So the First Amendment guarantees freedom of speech, press, and religion. And then it's guaranteed the right to assemble peacefully and petition the government for the redress of the grievance. And then Chapter 6 talks about white-collar crime and business community. So learning objectives were crime and criminal procedures, distinguishing features of the white-collar crime, and common and prevention of the white-collar crime. So criminal law punishes offenders for causing harm to the public health, safety, or morals, determines the range of punishment for prohibited conduct, and then it talks about the classifications of crime, which is treason, engaging in the war of one's own country for giving and for comfort to its enemies. Felonies, serious crimes punishable by death and imprisonment. Misdemeanors, crime of lesser severity than felonies, and then petty crimes, which are minor crimes that are punishable. So then it talked about the burden proof, which rests on the prosecutor. Important aspects: burden of the production of evidence. Prosecution must present physical evidence and testimony that proves all elements or of the crime. And then white-collar crime is committed in a commercial content by members of the professional managerial class. Corporates are liable for criminal acts committed by employees. Strict liability offense. No state of mind or intent is required. And then conduct must be within the scope of the employee's agent authority. And then arguments supporting the corporate's criminal liability. Fines will be pressured shareholders to ensure that the corporates are not held liable. Incentives on to obey laws are absent. Investigating a corporate as an entity as easier and convenient. And then arguments against corporate criminal liability is fines are imposed or passed on to the consumers with no impact on the firms. And then it talked about the common white-collar crimes, which is bribery. And then it talks about giving, receiving of money or any object of value for purpose of influencing. So, with, my relation to it was, I would go back to Chapter 5, and when it's talking about, you are granted, the Bill of Rights, because, at any job or place, your religion, it doesn't matter, they'll let you do, they don't have a strict religious code, and, you can speak freely.